Turkey content, send us your turkey content here.
Hi, Frank Morris Lopez here outside of Cambridge City Hall, where community members gathered tonight to hold a vigil for victims and survivors of alcohol and drug addiction. It's a problem that organizers say needs to be better recognized by the city. A bell rings for every life lost as community members gather to pay tribute to their loved ones who have died of alcohol and drug addiction.
Mike Delbini, Brian Driscoll, Brendan Scalise, Anna Gutierrez.
The vigil is perhaps most meaningful to its organizers.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to a new year with FabFit TV. I can't believe that it's already 2019, and I hope you guys had a great holiday season and the new year is kicking off lovely. I'm Kim Barnes Jefferson. I am your host, and I work with women to help them have the courage to break free of the rules and doubts that keep them from living a life of infinite possibilities. So tonight I want to kick it off. It's 2019, and everyone wakes up on January 1st and they're like, this is the year, I'm going to be the best person I can be. This is the year I lose 400 pounds. This is the year I become a millionaire. This is the year, I divorce my husband. This is the year I get a husband. So we all have our own, approaches to what the new year is going to bring us. So what I wanted to talk about is, what if we turn dieting on its head? Instead of, you've seen all the commercials just as much as I have. You've heard all the commercials. And it's all about, give up, drop this, do that. And instead, what if we flipped it around, and instead of us focusing first on dramatically dropping our calories and dramatically upping our workouts, what if we said, let me just back up. For some people, those two things are a challenge. And those two things are what keeps people in that perpetual cycle of chasing skinny, right? Because you try to, give up all the food, and then your willpower gives up, your motivation runs away, and you kind of get back onto that whole diet wheel again. Or you're going to the gym every day and you hit up every class that so-and-so told you, this is the best class if you want to have a tighter butt. This is the best class if you want to have six-pack abs. And you can't sustain it because that's not who you are. And again, you go back into that cycle, and I see it. I've been, in the fitness industry for over 15 years, and I see it. The first Monday in January, everyone comes in, new faces, and they're like, yeah. And I'll tell you, by March 31st, those new faces, I'd say 20% stick, 80%, I'm going to see them again in January. So I don't want that to be you. So what if we took the two things that everyone says they need to start with, diet and exercise, and we put them on the back burner, and we flipped it on this edge, and we said, instead of chasing skinny, I want to chase lasting results. And I know for many people, lasting results comes from having great habits. Because if you're not in the habit of working out, if you're not in the habit of eating right, that's like trying to force someone who is a smoker to stop smoking, just cold turkey, right? Why would they have the patch and all these other things if quitting smoking was just hey, I'm not going to smoke, and they're done? That's what you're trying to do when it comes to diet and exercise. You're I was having Big Macs and margaritas yesterday, and now I'm not going to have anything. So what I want to say is, if you're tired of that reboot button, what if we start to focus on your mindset? Now, it ain't sexy, not by any stretch of the imagination, but what I know is, when I clear out the cobwebs up here, when I clear out all of the negative self-talk, when I clear out all of the judgments that I have on myself, when I clear out all of the comparisons, That's when I'm going to start making changes, because I can't outrun my mind. I can outrun the next person on the treadmill. I could probably out-diet somebody, but I can't outrun the cuckoo that lives in my head. And we all have that cuckoo that lives in our head who comes out when you're trying to do something different. So I always challenge my clients and I tell them, if I focus on my mindset, the body's going to follow. Because what happens is, say you started with diet and exercise and you're like, this is great, this is awesome, I'm doing amazing. And there's always going to be a roadblock. There's going to be a challenge that comes up. And my mind is going to tell me, girl, how many times you going to go down this road? How many times you going to try? How many times you going to fail? How many times are you going to make this perfect when it's not perfect? How many times are you going to be, let down and disappointed? And it starts talking, and it gets louder and louder and louder and louder. And even though you feel great, and even though you're making progress, your mind can just knock you down just like that. So what I challenge people is that I want you to get away from the focus of how fast things are coming, because that's one of the first things that always knocks people off. Instead of, I want you to say, my quote from Arthur Ashe, I use it all the time. And when it comes to starting down the path of mindset, and I know that this is and I know that mindset isn't one of these things like, oh, in 30 days I'm going to have a brand new mindset. I know it's not like that. But what I challenge my clients when we start in this mindset piece, I use the Arthur Ashe quote. And the Arthur Ashe quote, it says, start where you are. And so I want you to sit down and just say, where are you? When you start down the diet road, what are the obstacles that jump out at you first? What are the excuses that you say about yourself? How far down the path do you get before you get squirrely? And by squirrely, I mean, is it 4 weeks in before you're like, is this working? Am I getting results? Where do you kind of feel like, I'm not getting the results for my effort? At what point have you experienced that before? Because that's where those pieces are where I want you to kind of have that forethought to say, okay, here are the known obstacles. Here are the known excuses, so that when they pop up, you can start to build the toolkit to bust through all of those lies, all that malarkey, and just be able to say, you know what? It's my mind trying to stop me from taking it to the next level. It's my mind trying to keep me safe. Because as humans, we like certainty. We want to know that tomorrow when I close my eyes, the sun's going to rise. I want to know that, there's 12 hours in a day. I want to know that there's 24 hours in a day. I want to know with certainty. And I see it a lot with my clients, because as we're going through the process, right? And, I'm going to map out the 4 steps. They want to know, well, how am I going to react on each step? And that's where the work comes. And that's where most people don't want to do it. It's work. It's not this, take this pill, wake up in 3 days, and you're going to be down 40 pounds. Trust me, my life would be so much easier if that was all I could do. If I said, take 2 of these and call me on Friday. I wish that's just not how it's going to be. So here's where that inner work comes. And that's where most of us, it's our society. We want that versus I have to ride through the uncomfortable parts. I have to ride through the feeling of the unknown. And if you're able to do that, trust me, on the other side, it's going to be the results that you want. It's going to be what you want. It is going to be that blue sky, right? But you got to go through the dark forest first in order to get to that blue sky. So I want you to think about, how do you define success? And as you define success, I want you to break free of your past self, because I don't want you to be like, back in high school, I weighed 138 pounds and you're now 40. I'm sorry, this should, like, it might happen, but like, let's just break up with old high school you. And let's say, you know what, in the last 5 years, I've weighed this. Or heck, throw the scale out and just say, you know what, in the last 5 years, I've been a size blah. And I want to go back to being that size. And I want you to take it to the next level. If in order to be that size, what are you willing to do long term? So if I wanted to get down to a size 10, size 8, what am I willing to do? If I'm willing to do it for the next 5 years in order to get there? Because a lot of times people get to that size and then they're like, I could do whatever I want now. And then gradually you creep back up. So I want you to think about, whatever I choose, it has to be sustainable. And that sustainability starts up here. Then the next piece, so, we're always going to be working our mindset, because I always feel like as you knock down one barrier, another barrier is going to pop itself up. And it's just a constant building of that toolbox in order to get that, bulletproof mindset that, instead of wallowing for a couple of days, you might wallow for a couple of hours, or it might knock you down for a few minutes and then you're back up. So I don't want you to think that all of a sudden you're this bulletproof, Wonder Woman, kind of deflecting all of your obstacles and challenges. The second piece is movement. Now, I'm not talking, balls to the wall kind of workouts. I'm just talking moving your body. And if you think about it, in our society, we don't move as much as we used to move. And, if you think about 20 years ago, right? Not that 20 years ago, in it was just a short period of time. 20 years ago, we walked a lot. We walked a lot more. If you think about, there wasn't remote controls. There wasn't, you cranked your window. That was a luxury, an option that sometimes you decided you didn't want to pay for, to have power windows. So you cranked your windows. And, when you hear people say these little things, and I'm sure you read, especially this time of year, you read them all over the place. To get more movement in your day, take the stairs, go to the bathroom the furthest, if you work in a corporate environment, go to the bathroom the furthest from your desk. All of those things, all those little things add up. Those are acts of daily living. I mean, why do you think the Fitbits and the activity trackers are so popular? It's not because the Fitbit's pretty. It's because we don't move. I do a lot of work in corporate environments. I go in and teach group fitness classes in companies. And a lot of the companies over the last few years have adopted more standing desks, because fidgeting, that's movement. Or, pacing, that's movement. So when I'm at a standing desk, I'm more likely to do more pacing. I'm more likely to fidget more than if I were to just be sitting at a desk all the time. And so those little acts of daily living, they add up. You have a dog, so you're definitely going to be out, at least 2 times a day with the dog. If it's a puppy, you're out way more if you're trying to potty train it. So it's those little things that add up for that movement. And, you'll get a lot of bang for your buck. So the first step is, I challenge you, are you getting 10,000 steps? And if you aren't, what can you do to get those 10,000 steps? So before I start talking smack, let me check myself. Okay, so I'm at 12,000 steps today. And, some days I can hit 30,000 steps, and some days I can hit 5,000 steps. And it's very telling about what kind of day I had with those two types of steps. And so this next piece comes in what we all want to focus on. We all want to focus on food. And we all want that magic, fat burning, calorie torching list. And here's the thing. When you work with me, I'm not that type of coach that says, okay, Susie, here's the don't eat this list, and here's your meal plan for this week, and here's the foods you can have. I don't do that because this is what I know. You are a grown beep woman and you know what to eat. You know that supersizing it at McDonald's isn't exactly the best thing for you. You all know that. It's just a matter of helping you to figure out what's the best thing for you, right? So the first thing I always say to people is we have to focus on the type of meal that you're eating. And so what that means is do you have satiation with that meal? So basically, big word, do you feel full? Do you feel like you've had enough? Do you feel like you don't need any more? That's my first thing about your meal. Then I want to move into, was it satiating? And so satiating is, do you feel hungry? Like you ate it and you don't feel hungry at all. And so, you had enough, it was satisfying. Then we're going to move into did you enjoy it, right? Because the enjoyment piece is this. The enjoyment piece is not a physical thing I feel in my body. I physically feel in my body fullness, right? I physically in my body, my stomach can only hold but so much. But my brain can undo all of that. My brain can tell even though my stomach is like, blah, my brain can say, you know what? There's some cupcakes over there, and you know what? I want one of those. I'm having one of those. It's going down. And trust me, you've all been there. Think about it. You're out to dinner and you're like, I'm so full. It was a great meal. And then, the waiter comes by, and if it's a restaurant that knows that you eat with your eyes, they have a dessert tray that gives you a sample, physically shows you a sample of what the dessert is versus, handing you a piece of paper. They're like, because if you see whatever your, weak link is for dessert, you know you're going to order it. And trust me, I worked at a restaurant and we used to hand out a piece of paper. As soon as we started coming out with, every day we used to have, one piece of the dessert that we had on our tray. As soon as we started doing that, I sold way more desserts than I did before. So we get satisfied with our eyes, even though our belly is like, oh girl, I can't have no more. We get full with our eyes. So what I want you to focus on as you're putting together meals, I want your meals to feel satisfying. I want them to physically look satisfying. Like, why do you think restaurants spend so much time on the presentation of the meal? Because if it looks pleasing to my eye, it's going to feel pleasing to my belly. So I want you to think about, I want something that gives me that quick hit of fullness. Then I want that fullness to last. Not just a few moments. I want that fullness to last a couple of hours so that I don't feel like I'm always eating or always seeking food. Then I'm going to focus on my caloric intake, because I want to, have maximum food for minimum calories, if that makes sense. So that way I'm maximizing all the pieces of my nutrition, so that I'm not just focusing on this has X number of calories, then I'm going to say, does it satisfy me? Because I know when you focus on X number of calories or X number of macros and you eat it and it's not satisfying, it doesn't leave you full, guess what? You're off looking for the next thing. And that sucks, right? Totally sucks. So sometimes those foods, trigger you to eat something else, even if it's a healthy food, because you didn't feel satisfied. Or maybe it's, just a food that you can't get enough of. It just hits all the taste buds in the right spot and lights up your brain like Christmas Day. So I want you to focus on when you're trying to build your menu, build the foods that you're going to eat. I want you to like sit down and really think about what foods give you that. What foods do you find satisfying, but they're also filling, right? Because it's like broccoli, no, minimum calories, but if you can eat more than a cup of broccoli, I'm gonna look at you funny, because I'm gonna be like, something's wrong with you. Because most people, because of the amount of fiber in broccoli, most people can't eat more than a cup of broccoli in a sitting. You might be able to eat several cups over the course of the day, but in one sitting, you can probably not eat more than a cup of broccoli. So it's satisfying, minimum calories, and with all that fiber in it, it's gonna stick with you for a while. So I want you to think about in terms of things like that. And, as you go through your day, those are the types of meals. But I also want you to think about, meals are daisy chained together. And so the first meal of my day can affect the rest of my day. So let me just back up and explain what the heck that means. So my first meal, if it doesn't hit on all those buttons, if I don't feel full, if I don't feel satisfied, if it doesn't make me, if my hunger comes back like that, that's going to set me down this avalanche of seeking. And we may have seen that. Like, I know for me, eggs. Sometimes if I'm traveling and I'm not in my normal environment, sometimes the only thing I have a choice of is eggs. And eggs for me, they are not very satiating. I can eat 3 to 4 eggs, and probably within an hour or two, I'm like, what's next? And I've done it all. I've put in vegetables, I put toast, I've done all the things to make that meal way more filling and way more satisfying, and it doesn't do it for me. So when I have eggs first thing in the morning, it sets me down a snowball of like, I can't eat enough other foods. And so you might have foods like that, or now I've raised your awareness for you to start thinking about, do I have foods that do that for me? Because that first meal of the day, it doesn't have to be breakfast. I know that some people, are into the intermittent fasting and all that other stuff. That's fine. But whatever that first meal of the new day is, I want you to make sure it hits on all those buttons. Does it make you feel full? Does it stick with you? Is it satisfying to the brain? And it does it, let's make sure that we're not like, maxing out on our calories. If you think about like, there's like, I think it's like a Denny's or like Applebee's. Like you see them all over the internet of like, if you eat this breakfast, you've eaten breakfast for 5 people. Like, I don't want those kind of breakfasts, if you feel me. So that's where the meals come. So it flips meal planning on its head a little bit, so that your focus more is making sure you are full versus I need this many calories or this many, macros of carbs and this many macros of protein. It's focusing on making sure by the end of that meal, I am not hungry, I am not craving, and my energy isn't in the toilet. Make sense? All right. So then the last piece is the workout, right? The last piece is the workout, because so many people want to solve the eating problem with the workout. And it makes me like crazy when I hear people like, last night, it was a bad night. I'm just going to sweat it out on the Stairmaster. We're a family show, so insert your dirty word right there when I hear that. It makes me crazy when I hear that. You can't outrun a bad diet. If you ate it, you own it. The end. Move on. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was a magical meal. It's over. Next. Okay, so with the workout, it's not about I need to kill myself. I need to, work so hard that I feel like my heart's gonna pop out of my chest. I need to work so hard that the next day getting off the toilet is hard for me. No, I want you to focus on quality. I want you to say, if I could get in 3 to 4 awesome workouts. Now, when I say awesome, it's awesome for that day. Because some days you feel like you can lift a Buick, other days lifting this remote control is all I can do. So I want you to go in with how your body feels on that given day. And that's how we're going to change, that's how we're going to put dieting on its head. That's how you're going to flip it upside down. That's how you're going to break free of the, chasing skinny. That's how you're going to say, you know what? I can live a happy life with an occasional cocktail and have cream in my coffee. And it starts with having good habits. It's creating these small little habitual wins that's going to help you create these routines. That's going to give you the courage to keep going so that eventually you're able to get this consistency. And it's the consistency that's going to get you the results. It's not these popcorn endeavors that you do here and there and everywhere. It's like, what can I do on a day in and day out basis for the next 5 years, for the rest of my life? So if that sounds like something that you are interested in, do me a favor, hit me up on Facebook. I'm Kim Barnes Jefferson. On Instagram, I'm Kim Jefferson Coach, or you can also find me on my website at fabfitsquad.com. I'm doing a habit challenge, so I would love for you guys to hop in, and it's 5 days to literally I help you map out how do you create great habits. So if you want to do something like that, do me a favor, hit me up on my website or shoot me a DM in Facebook, and I would be more than willing to give you all of the details. Until then.